get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But if from one day to the next, there's no consistency, then it's hard to get consistent with a habit.
Bingo.
So, yep.
We talked about the scenes of the sublime last time, right?
Yep.
Sometimes the scene of the sublime is also a time of the day, not a location.
Right.
Right. And yeah, if that time of day is all over the board, hard to establish the habit. You're spot on, man. And honestly, like your calendar should be blocks between 8:30 and 11 o'clock. There should be no white space on that sucker.
Mm-hmm.
As human beings, I wish I could quote where I read this from, but I think like our most productive, focused time is like the first 2 to 3 hours that we are awake. And now, for lack of like, that's a loaded gun of who gets up when, but the point is that our mornings are our most productive time. So you just talked about some really important things that you said over there, right? Like, it's like, you got to check, like these calls seem to come in the morning. Okay, well, hey, there it is, even right there for you as a reason. Like, you should have your prime proactive energy dedicated to the consistent things that will grow business, that'll help you succeed. And for the agent, it's training consistently, which is a constant battle for agents to agree with. But then there is the lead gen and the follow-up and the accountability that we got to make sure happen consistently before 11 o'clock. So I think you can replicate that for your mornings, and it should become a new habit that is just so untouchable. So your mornings are a pretty good habit. Now, again, nothing's 100% bulletproof, but you're going to make it 90, 95, dare I say almost 98% proof that your mornings are untouchable the majority of the time. Now it's about conveying that and why you're doing it to a Brent. So Brent's on board with it and appreciates the value of the habit for what sounds like will impact his business for the better. So,
I mean, he even admits he needs to do the same thing. So I think me doing it and being consistent with it will help.
And now you have this consistent morning, and we've talked about the tethering activities, the scene of the sublime. We've talked about those identity goals, those affirmations you could create for yourself. Like, there are now the psychological tactics that you need to then build in to actually execute this in addition to just putting it on your calendar. So it's all flowing back together, good sir. And if you need a tune up on any of those things I just rattled off, say the word. Like, you don't expect you to remember everything all at once, but for these new habits to stick, what are the identities you can take on to help yourself stick with it? What can you tether that's enjoyable activity for you to help yourself want to sit down and do it if focus is ever an issue, which maybe it's not so bad for you in my time knowing you, but still good to know some tethering, the enjoyable activities to marriage with your lead gen and follow-up. Who's the accountability partner that you can report to make sure you're honest with it? Maybe it's Brent, maybe it's someone else. So you never kid yourself and make excuses for yourself. And then where are you going to do this at? And does that place that you're identifying already have habits that might be at odds with this new habit you want to establish? And there you go. Everything we talked about last time we met is now being filtered into successfully have a super productive morning. Maybe in the afternoons, you feel like you can breathe a little more easily. I don't know. Because you know,
you said about,
oh, go ahead.
No, what you said about being sharp in the mornings, I'm that way. Usually when I get to the afternoons, I'm kind of brain dead a little bit. I have to get another cup of coffee and kind of refresh. But I think also working out in the middle of the day, like making it feel like I have two separate days, because that's also part of it, is I just don't take lunch breaks. I just work through it. And so instead of feeling like I have two separate days and I can adjust and I can tackle the second half of my day, it's just like it all kind of runs together.
I think that's a good thought you have. And doesn't that just go in hand beautifully? Because you're not alone. Like, I want to say, is it like, shoot, I need to research my time. I think like there is lulls in our productivity, and it might be like 2 or 3 p.m. and like 9, 10 a.m. We're at our most undisciplined, reactive. And long story short, you're most proactive in the morning. So put the right things in front of you at that time. And in the afternoons, when you're more likely needing to be reactive, in the afternoons when you're more likely reactive, isn't that the best time to respond to outside requests, AKA your clients, your consumers, your team members. Because your proactivity is now fading because it's no longer the morning. Okay, let response work occur during the more typical response time as a human being. And be proactive during the proactive time for the things you should be proactive about. Like, let's just filter them appropriately.